Session 10 of the Guildford Junior Chess Club training program featured puzzles, problems and studies. This is one of my favourite sessions as it gets the kids used to analysing chess, difficult positions and maybe thinking out of the box from time to time in order to solve these unusual concoctions. Position 1 is in front of you. It's white to play and win. Very game-like. Could certainly be a game. And we can see that black's in trouble right away. His king is tied down. But white's still got to find the correct method in order to win. And it's not so easy. In fact, it took the kids 40 minutes to solve this. It was almost as if they had to go through a separate problem on each move in order to get the winning technique correct. So why don't you give this a go? I mean, I'm sure you will improve your technique if you get this one right, because it's not that easy. White to play and win. Okay, well, I'm going to open up the notation now, and we're going to see the answer. Even the first move poses some problems, and the only correct first move here is rook to c7, which places black in a kind of zugzwang already. It's worth noting that white can make an immediate mistake. If he takes on a6, rook b6 check, and stalemate on the next move. So that is already a small trap which white has to avoid. If white moves the king, and this was the favourite move of the kids, black plays king e7. And I think peculiarly this move draws. It doesn't look as though it should do, but it does, because if white takes on a6, let's have a look at the lines. We activate our rook. He takes on a5, then we give a check. This picks up the pawn at d7, and now this is a theoretical draw. You know, it looks as though white can still play on with a move like rook d5 check, for instance, driving the king away, and then rook b5, planning to push the pawn all the way up the board. But then the king comes back, and white can't win this, amazingly. If he pushes on, we go check, and the problem is that the black king is now going to enter into the fray, which white certainly doesn't want. White goes king a8, we just check, he blocks, we bring our king in, draw. Let's go back. If he goes king a6, again we bring our king in, and rook b7 forces a draw. So going back to the start one more time, let's back up here. This is quite an interesting position already, because we've eliminated two plausible candidate moves. King c6 and rook takes a6. So rook c7, very good move, and now black's only got one move, and that's the check. Clearly, if he plays rook a8, rook b7 is zugzwang straight away. Another nice point. This study is full of nice points, actually, which is why I like it so much. So that is zugzwang, therefore, rook c7, rook b6 check. He blocks, and now black has to go back. Otherwise, rook c8 wins immediately. So he has to go back, and now we play king e6. And this is another key move, which is really running black out of logical alternatives to rook a8. There is no other move. Rook a8 is the only move, or white's rook will penetrate. Now rook b6, a little bit of toing and froing. He comes out with the king, but there's a difference now to the other variation, because the black rook is very passive on a8, and this allows white just to retreat the rook, either to b1 or b2, doesn't really matter. And now, of course, there's the threat of king e7, which black has to take action against. So he gives himself maximum checking distance. Then white checks, driving the king away. Echoes of the Lucena position there. And now the killer blow, rook to h2. A very nice decoy. Easy to miss at the outset, but wins straight away, I think, because now the black rook is forced onto a very poor square. Obviously, if black takes the rook, then it's completely hopeless. White would queen. Okay, black gives a check, but king f5, and queen against rook's a win. With the pawns on the board, I imagine it's even easier to win for white, so that can be discounted. Therefore, black's got to move his rook. We close him with the king. We close in with the king again. He comes across to protect, and now rook c2 check wins. So a very nice winning sequence, not at all easy. The kids found that quite difficult, but it is incredibly instructive to see the way white manoeuvres to push the black pieces out of the position, and eventually comes in with a winning idea. So a very, very nice way to start the session. As I say, it did take the kids quite a long time to solve it. Right, we move on to position 2, which is, of course, one of my all-time favourites. You may have seen this in one of my videos before, but I make no excuses for showing it again here. And the kids found this a rather beautiful example of the chess study. Well, it's white to play in this position. And what should the result of the game be? 3 results possible. 2 more likely than the other. But it's white to play. What should the result be? Again, if you haven't seen this before, it's really worthwhile setting the board up at home and trying to solve this before looking at the result here. Okay, well, we can quickly discount most of white's moves because they simply lose to a move like bishop f5. If white queens, bishop f5 cleans up, because there's no way white can stop that pawn. What else is there? If white tries to move his king out of the way, we just go bishop f5 and the pawn is stopped. And white can't do anything about the inexorable advance of the black king into the position. As long as he remembers to protect his pawn, he's going to be okay. And now, of course, b5. And once again, white loses. Back to the start once more. Is there anything else? King e6. No, not good enough. King f4. And once again, taking the queen is answered by a skewer. So it seems completely hopeless for white, this position. But in fact, the correct objective is white to play and draw. So how is it done? Well, the first move is simply extraordinary. And it comes as a surprise to virtually everybody who hasn't seen this position before. White plays the incredible move, the impossible looking king to c8, blocking his own pawn, allowing the black pawn to march forward, seemingly unstoppable. Well, what can white do from here? Incredibly, he can play king to d7, going into reverse gear. So he's giving black 2 whole moves here. Quite incredible. But now he's going to regain some time with king to d6. He's threatening to queen. Black must stop the queen from coming back onto the board. And now white gains a second tempo with king e5. This is the beauty of this study. And wherever black goes, white's going to step into the square of the pawn with king d4 and make a draw. It looks so simple when you see it now, but trying to solve it from the start is really, really difficult. Well, let's just play out a few variations. Black moves back to defend. White comes into range of the pawn. He's threatening king c4. Black stops him. We take a queen. Thank you very much. He must capture. And now, quite astoundingly, white can round up the pawn. So a remarkable idea. If we go back to the start, you know, who could believe that king c8 was the right move in this position? Totally counterintuitive. But in fact, it's the only way to draw. This puzzle took up the rest of the time allotted to us on Monday. I was hoping to show the third position here, which is a mate in 3, to study by Würzburg from the 19th century. Beautiful idea. White to play and mate in 3 moves. So again, it's very well worth investing a little bit of time in this study to see if you can solve it. How does white win in 3 moves? Checkmate. Well, did you find the first key move, which is bishop h3? Not easy to see at all. It's a retreating move to the edge of the board. Why should that win? Well, it wins because white's setting up the threat of queen g4, followed by queen to either d7 or c8 to give checkmate. And if black moves his king, he's going to find that that plan by white is very effective. I mean, let's give this a try. King to c7, queen to g4. He moves his king, and then the queen comes into c8, giving checkmate. Excuse my soundbar in the background, sounding off. So black can't move his king. So what he's left with, well, e4 again, queen g4, is a5, trying to give an escape square for the king. But the next move elevates this puzzle to excellent. White can play the incredible move, queen a6, check. Beautiful finish. Obviously, king c7, queen c8, mate. Mates on c8, whatever. King takes a6, and now the bishop switches back and gives checkmate on b7. So again, not so easy, and I'm sure the children would have enjoyed that had they seen it. So that was the end of this short session, and all I can say is repeat that studying these types of unusual chess positions, problems, studies, puzzles, will only increase your chess strength, and I can thoroughly recommend it.